Howdy folks, Spencer here, and today I want to take a look at the brand new Lobi items that were added into the game alongside the Dimensional Typhoon event. As always, chapters to each topic are listed down below. And before I get too far into things, a couple of quick notes. All of these items are from Star Trek Lower Decks. These items went live last week on PC and should be going live on consoles sometime in October or November. Lobi items are a per character unlock, so make sure you're getting these on the character you want them on. If you accidentally buy one of these on the wrong character, then you're going to have to contact support to see if they can either move it or refund you. And most importantly, if you are using Lobi crystals to purchase any of these items, then do not buy them until there is at least a 20% sale running. Lobi is a very, very expensive resource to acquire, and you want to make sure that you're getting the Lobi items as cheap as you possibly can. Next up, before I dive into all of the items one by one, I want to give you a quick overview of what all has been added and what the cost is. The items that you see marked in yellow text are to indicate that those items do not bind to you upon purchasing them from the Lobi store, indicating that they are tradable or sellable. So if you want to buy them via the player exchange for EC, then those items would be available on there, so you can get them with EC rather than burning the very expensive Lobi resource on them. There is one new space item, the personal space trait Drukmani Salvage Claim. This has a base cost of 200 Lobi. And for ground, there's a total of 7 new items. There's a personal ground trait Barter by Combat, which also costs 200 Lobi crystals. There's 2 brand new universal kit modules, the AGIMUS Aggression Network and Exceptional Compromise. These are each 200 Lobi. There's 2 new ground weapons. One is the Sword of the Winter Constellation. This will cost you 200 Lobi. Then there is the Betazoid Lipstick Baton. This is 50 Lobi. Then there is the Badgey Combat and Non-Combat Pets. These are 100 Lobi per box, and there is a bit of RNG to this, as you'll see later in the video. And then you have the Mark Twain or Samuel Clemens formal wear outfit, which costs 200 Lobi. Starting off with the 2 new personal traits, one's for space, one's for ground, but they have the exact same effect. These again cost 200 Lobi per. They do not bind on pickup, so you can buy them on the exchange, and they've typically been sitting around 60 to 70 mil from what I've seen. So what these traits do is while you have them slotted, anytime you defeat a foe, there's a chance of having additional rewards granted directly into your inventory. These rewards can be energy credits, any of these various commodities, but most importantly, contraband. And when you defeat a foe of lieutenant rank or higher, there's a 33% chance of receiving additional energy credits or commodities. So from the testing I've done, and I'll show you some here in a moment, but the payoff from this is extremely slow. The only drop from this that really is going to help pay it off in a reasonable time frame is contraband. And from the testing I've done, I've not been seeing good results from this in any team task force operation content, but in solo patrols, the drops have been pretty good, especially on maps like Ninth Rule or Rescue and Search, where there's the infinite waves for a little bit. The drops there can be pretty good, and you're going to get much more EC from the drops that just natively happen from destroying the ships. But this is a way, if you're farming that type of content, to get a little bit extra. But again, as you're going to see, the drops from this are very low. So even if you buy one of these for 60 million EC, if you're using this on a daily basis, it could take you weeks or months to pay it off. And as a demonstration of this trait, I'm going to go through this rescue and search patrol. I'm already most of the way done. I'm going to show you it on the wave portion at the end.
Bad news, I'm afraid.
Where there's infinite waves here.
Approaching our position.
Warning. Ship is under attack. Target shields have failed.
Basically, as you'll see, like just as I'm getting kills here, I'll randomly have some additional loot pop up. You saw 300 EC there. Some medical supplies, water purification systems, nice stuff like that. The EC amounts are really small, and basically when you're using this trait, the only way that you're really going to see it paying off is if it gives you contraband drops. Well, you see, it's not dropping all the time. Again, it's just a chance when you get a kill. 2 contraband, that's pretty good. The thing with contraband is that it's worth typically 60 to 70k per unit, so if you're doing stuff with this trade on and you actually get contraband, the payoff time isn't going to be as bad as the 300 EC drops would make you believe. It's still not great, but it's certainly a way that you can farm some resources while just doing some other activities. The question really is it going to be a payoff in a quick enough time frame to cover the cost of the trade for people? We'll take a look at all the loot after this is done. Should be just about done.
Let's deal with the stragglers, shall we?
Okay, so the dilithium there, that was from me getting a spec point. But if we look at the actual
I think that was the
loot
last
that I got here, you know, you can see I got 2 communication arrays, one water purification, 6 medical supplies, 3 tula berries, 12 provisions, and the 2 contraband. And then EC wise, I got 3,230 EC out of this patrol. Now, picking up the loot that just natively drops in this patrol is going to give you a lot more EC for the time. This is certainly a trait that over time, you know, over a very long time, might pay itself off for you, but it is a very, very, very slow return. And next up is the Universal Kit Module AGIMUS Aggression Network. This costs 200 Lobi and will immediately bind to your character upon purchasing it from the Lobi store. What this does is it will deploy an AGIMUS unit which does not move the entire 40 seconds it's active, and this AGIMUS unit will deploy up to 8 drones that fly to foes, damage them, and apply one of the 3 following effects: a stun, a knockback, and a taunt. And I want to show you AGIMUS in action now. Now, if you want to hear the audio clips from it a bit better, boost up your FX volume. So the thing with the AGIMUS unit is you need to be in combat in order for the drones to be able to engage. If I deploy the AGIMUS unit here, the Borg on the other side here, they're not going to fly over and auto-engage them. I actually have to engage in order for them to go and fight. So I'm going to go in here. You can see the drones now doing their work. They don't have much health, so don't expect them to last very long. And this is in normal difficulty, not even elite. The AGIMUS unit itself, it's got enough health to stay alive for a bit here, but the drones, they struggle a little bit. Against unshielded foes, they can do okay damage, but if the foes are shielded or if they're far away, you're going to have a difficult time with them. So I'm going to redeploy this.
I am AGIMUS.
Again, this is on normal difficulty. Fortunately, these things are getting close up for my bridge officers to engage. It's certainly an interesting set of visual effects, but the performance isn't that crazy to me. I think if you're on a drone or pet heavy build, you might enjoy this, but for min-max performance, I don't think this is a kit module that you would want to slot. You know, the competition out there is going to be stuff like Ball Lightning, Ball Obelisk, Agony Field Gen, and, you know, those are just so much more powerful. Agony Field Gen can kill enemies through walls, so you can hit some interesting play out of that. Ball Lightning, you know, again, that's just powerful. I hit that and things die. Ball Obelisk, you set that down and it does tons of damage. So the AGIMUS kit module, I think it's fun, but from a meta point of view, I don't think you'd put it on any meta type of build. And next up is the Exceptional Compromise kit module. This also costs 200 Lobi. And this has different effects based on what rank the foe is you're using this against. When used against foes ranked commander or lower, it is going to confuse and disable them indefinitely or until they receive damage equal to 33% of their maximum health. Against players or foes ranked captain or higher, it is going to placate them and apply a minus 75% outgoing all damage debuff for 24.1 seconds. So that might be interesting for those of you that care about ground PvP. For PvE, this could be interesting if you have a boss that does a lot of damage that you're looking to lower its outgoing damage output on. Aside from that, probably not too much practical use here. It does have a very short range, 9 meters here. And the other neat thing about this is that when used against some humanoid targets, it will make them appear with the Sam, Clemens, or Mark Twain costume while they're affected. So there's a neat visual effect to it. The placate and minus outgoing damage debuff might be interesting in some scenarios, but I don't think there's much meta application here. Okay, and I'm going to show you how this thing looks in combat. Again, it isn't doing damage, it's just confusing a foe or debuffing them. So you see how that foe now looks like Mark Twain? And it's actually a 10-minute effect there, so it's not indefinite like it described there. And again, once they take 33% of their damage, then it stops working. So it's an interesting visual effect, but again, like I said, I don't think it's going to have too much meta value. And next up is the ground melee weapon, Sword of the Winter Constellations. This costs 200 Lobi and does bind to you upon purchase. So it's 4 times the cost of most Lobi weapons, and melee weapons in general are not the most effective weapon type in the game. So the primary and secondary attacks on this, the thing that makes it so special is that these primary and secondary attacks have a chance to throw a knife at a nearby foe. Aside from that, they seem to do about the same damage as other swords that I have. And the other interesting thing with this one is that it has a tertiary attack, which will summon 4 Orion murder bugs for 10 seconds, which will attack foes. So this is certainly an interesting effect, and I'll show you this in action. And this weapon can be re-engineered, I just didn't have the resources to do so. So every modifier can be re-rolled to whatever you want. So I'm going to show you the murder bugs in action here. Again, this is on normal difficulty, so in elite, the impact would be much less. And here is the melee from this. I mean, it's cool that it can throw the knife at nearby foes and all that, but, you know, given that this costs 4 times what most Lobi weapons cost, I just can't recommend it. You know, it's there if you just absolutely need to have that Orion murder bug effect, but I don't think that's worth 200 Lobi. And the other ground weapon is the Betazoid Lipstick Baton. This cost 50 Lobi. It is not upgradable. And the thing with this is it's not something that goes into a weapon slot. Rather, this goes into a device slot and it will replace your default melee or tertiary attack. And each hit with this will give you a chance to stun a foe. And if you don't stun a foe, it's going to apply a stack of a debuff that increases the chance for you to stun. And all stacks of that are cleansed once the foe is actually stunned. So I can show you this one in action. Again, this goes right into a device slot. So let's head on over to some foes here. If you have this equipped alongside the sword, it will replace the effect that has, including the summon of the murder bugs there. So here is what the melee of this looks like. Pretty interesting effect there. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's not extended. So interesting little visual there. Now let's see what this thing looks like. Okay, this is on normal difficulty, so stuff is dying fast, but when a foe is stunned by it, they'll have like a purple effect on him. Right around their head. I'm killing them all before I can stun them, though. Initially, this wasn't working against the board, but they did fix that. There we go. So that's the effect when it does stun a foe, and it does that for a decent amount of time. In a PvP I did, it was like 6 seconds, so it's a decent little stun effect, and against the other melee replacements like the Confederation Comm Badge or the Terran Knife, it seemed to be doing more damage than those. So I would certainly recommend this over the Confederation Comm Badge. The trade-off again is just that the Comm Badge can be thrown. The Terran Knife can be thrown also. This one is a melee weapon, so you do have to get right up against the foe to use it. And whether or not that's worth it, you know, I'd say if you're looking for a melee replacement, it certainly seems to be the best option we have so far. But the question is that worth 50 Lobi to you? And next up is the Badgey combat and non-combat pets. They have these things in an RNG box that cost 100 Lobi per box. So when you open one of these boxes, there's a chance that you're going to get one of the 3 non-combat variants, and there's a very small chance you're going to get the combat variant. The drop rate for the combat variant is extremely, extremely poor. So I went over onto the Triple Test server and I opened up 1,000 of these boxes, and the results were that the combat variant has a 6.7% chance to drop. So that's basically 1 out of every 15 boxes, and with the cost being 100 Lobi per box, you could potentially spend your entire event campaign Lobi trying to get one of the combat variants, and with the RNG that they have here, you could potentially still end up not getting one out of that much Lobi. For me, it took 26 boxes for me to get my first one, and that was during the 20% sale, meaning I spent 2,000 Lobi trying to get the combat one on stream. So the drop rate is extremely poor. The good thing is you can directly buy these things off the player exchange, and the rate for the combat variant has been sitting around 250 to 300 million EC over the past couple of days. And while that is pretty expensive, I would still highly recommend that if you want the combat variant or the non-combat variants, that you go the EC route instead. Don't burn your Lobi trying to get these things, especially if you just want a non-combat variant. Those things have been under 1 million recently, so if you want those, just buy them off the exchange. Do not waste your Lobi on these. And now I want to show you guys the visuals for the non-combat variants of Badgey. Again, these things are all dirt cheap, so do not waste your Lobi on these. You can buy them for a very, very small amount of EC on the exchange. So first up is going to be Badgey. This is your stock Badgey appearance. And what's really neat with this is it's going to do a bunch of different animations with some different faces. It's going to look funny. There's no sounds from any of the non-combat variants from what I've seen. And another neat thing is when you start running, this thing's going to chase you. The non-combat ones don't have a knife, but the combat variant, as you'll soon see, does have a knife, and it's a very sinister effect that it has. So that is the Badgey stock appearance, and there's Goodgy, And I'll show you the price of that here. So that is literally the cheapest per unit is 333,000. These are dirt cheap because people opening packs to get the combat variant, which has that really low drop rate, are just dumping these non-combat ones up really cheap. So you can see there, it's under 500,000. Why would you spend 100 Lobi trying to get that? And then the other one is Logicy. Let me show you the price of that. Again, per unit, 357k. Otherwise, right around 500,000. Why would you spend 100 Lobi crystals for that? So those are the non-combat variants. Now let's take a look at the combat one. Okay, and this footage is from a PvP that I did against an alt of mine. So I'll summon Badgey in and we'll try to hear the sound effects. There it is, and you can see it has an angry face and a knife, and it'll run towards the target and start to stab them.
Can I teach you a lesson?
And it does flash in and out sometimes with the animations, but it'll lock onto the target, run to it, and it'll start stabbing it. It does a very small amount of damage, but the main thing to really focus on here is that it's also holding the foe during the time that it's doing this. So it's a very violent effect. If the target is standing still, it'll sometimes do these punches and that little spin there, do some damage that way. And when the target starts to run, or if there's multiple targets, it'll start to swap between. So you can see there, like as the target runs, it's got a knife out and it's going to chase. And it'll like just teleport right onto their back. Again, very violent effect. And it'll do this for about 2 minutes. And if it stays alive for the entire 2 minutes, it's going to do a special effect, which I will show you here. I'll let it play out. So I think you have an idea of what it's doing here. It just keeps doing that stab effect.
I didn't mean to. On the nose.
I've got it sped up a little bit now.
On the nose. I'll be a digital god.
And in just a couple seconds, it's going to be about ready to do its ascension animation. So if it stays alive the entire time, it'll go through and do this little effect when it's over. So it's a neat set of animations. Very, very violent, as you can see there with the stabbing. It's fun. It does a hold effect. It doesn't really do much damage, so it's more of a visual for fun thing. And the question is then, you know, is that type of visual effect, is that worth that very high cost to you? And I will show you the cost of those here on the exchange right now. This is a week out from these being released. There's no Lobi sale active now. And the combat variant is going to be the very rare quality one on the exchange, and that's 200 mil. So it's actually come down a little bit. Is that worth 200 mil? Probably not. It's more of a for fun thing, not really a performance thing. Combat pet wise, I believe some of the targs can outperform it by a bit. So it's, you know, it's not a great performer. It does hold the foes, which is, I guess, a nice perk, but you're very much using this for the visual effect that it has. And the final edition is the Samuel Clemens or Mark Twain outfit. This costs 200 Lobi. It does not bind to you, so you can sell this on the exchange and buy it with a C off the exchange. And it's been sitting under 70 mil. Let me see what it's at right now. So right now it's 65 mil. So this includes an upper uniform jacket loose piece, upper off-duty jacket loose, lower uniform pants loose, lower off-duty pants loose, feet, hairstyle, eyebrow, and mouth accessory. These costume pieces are usable by all captain species and most bridge officer species. So This does have some neat costume pieces. They have some examples up on the blog. You can use this again on any race, and the costume pieces, you can change the color on these. I've seen people on the STO subreddit like making clown outfits with this. So if you want a suit costume for your characters and your bridge officers, then this certainly might be an outfit box that you'd want to consider picking up. And again, you don't have to use Lobi to get it. You can just buy it off the exchange. Right now, 65 million. So if this is something you want, just buy it off the exchange. If you want to have another suit option, you want that hairstyle, which even a Gorn can use, then this is certainly something you may want to consider. And to wrap things up, nothing here is a must-have meta-wise. This is very much a for fun update. If you're a lower decks fan and have wanted to have some of these items in the game for a while, you have them, and they're fun to play around with. And the most important thing is that half of these new items can be acquired directly via the player exchange. So make sure if you're buying these, if they're available via the exchange, earn your EC instead of your Lobi. Lobi is very expensive to acquire. Even your event campaign Lobi, I know that a bunch of people just got a bunch free, but I would still recommend you save that Lobi for the things that can only be acquired directly through the Lobi store. If something can be sold on the exchange, then get it the EC way. But that's going to be it for today, so let me know what you guys think of these items down below. Have you enjoyed playing around with them, or do you have any regrets from trying to pick some of them up like that Badgey? Let me know. And of course, thank you to all channel members and viewers for the continued support. See you guys around.